What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 schedule preview projected record series. The North Carolina Tar Heels are up next. Here is the 2023 schedule for North Carolina. You see they open things up with South Carolina. Going to play that game in Charlotte. My mind just goes back to the game a few years ago where South Carolina came in as a favorite. North Carolina upset them. Could be a similar situation this year. I think South Carolina has a chance to be, they'll probably be a preseason top 25 team with Spencer Rattler coming back, and they'll probably be favored in this game. But North Carolina will have a great shot. After that, they play App State on September the 9th, and then Minnesota on September 16th. So that's a pretty difficult non-conference schedule right there. I realize they have Campbell later in the season, but South Carolina, very quality Power 5 team. Minnesota, quality Power 5 team. And then you have Appalachian State, who's one of the better group of 5 programs. That's a very respectable non-conference schedule. No, they don't have a top 10 team in there, but still, like I said, a very respectable non-conference schedule for North Carolina. They'll play Pittsburgh next on September the 23rd. That'll be a road game. That'll kick things off in the ACC. Then they get a pretty early bye week. Their bye week comes right there after Pittsburgh before playing Syracuse. They'll play Syracuse on October the 7th. Then it'll be another home game against Miami on October 14th. 3 home games, 3 conference home games in a row. You don't see that very often. They play Virginia next on October 21st. Then they'll go on the road to play Georgia Tech on October 28th. And so a very manageable month of October there. With 3 games at home, Georgia Tech, the only road game. That is a very nice month of October again. And then Campbell on November 4th. So those 5 games in a row, that stretch is very favorable for North Carolina. They play Duke after that on November 11th. Of course, Duke is potentially a top 25 team this year. This is going to be a quality team. That'll be a big game there. They do close things out with a tough schedule, though, with back-to-back road games. They play Clemson on the road on the 18th, and then NC State on the road after that. So that does, those final 3 games are going to be tough. If they can get through this run in the ACC, which I think they've got a good chance to get from Syracuse to Georgia Tech, get those 4 games. Pittsburgh will be tough, but that is a winnable game. I think they can win that game against Pittsburgh. Again, it'll be a difficult matchup, but they got a good shot in that one. So you could be undefeated in the ACC before these final 3 games with, again, Duke at home, because it's at home, North Carolina with a great shot, and then there's Clemson and NC State. So this schedule definitely sets up well for them in the ACC. If you just split, those final 2 games and win the rest of these games, North Carolina, everybody's talking about Clemson and Florida State, and they're going to play twice. They're going to be in the ACC championship, but North Carolina could be in that conversation just based off of the way their schedule plays out. It's, again, very favorable in the ACC until you get to those final couple of weeks. But, again, a respectable non-conference schedule with South Carolina, App State, and Minnesota. Overall, the schedule, I wouldn't call it a real easy schedule. I like the way it sets up for them in the conference. They don't have to play Florida State. That's the good news there. Of course, these schedules are crazy looking now with no divisions in the ACC. It's just weird not seeing North Carolina, Virginia Tech, a matchup that we would normally see every year. It's strange looking at these schedules, but this one's just kind of weird with the 3 home games in a row, an early bye week, and then 2 really tough games on the road at the end of the season. Kind of a weird schedule for North Carolina, but let's get to the projection here. Our projection for them last year was 6-6, or 7-5. 7-5 was the projection last year. I picked them to go 6-6. I was not very high on this team. Didn't know how good Drake May was, and that was really, I think, why I missed on this team. But our projection had them at 7-5. They beat that. They went 9-3 in the regular season. So, again, beat the projections, although they didn't finish all that great with a loss to Clemson in the ACC Championship. They were blown out there, and then a bowl loss as well. But let's see what the projection looks like for 2023. You can see our scale here, if it's between 40 and 60%, those are your 50-50 games where I think the spread will be less than a touchdown. Less than 20 over 80, those are games where I think the spread will be 20 or more points. 30 to 39, 61 to 70. Those are the games, well, we skipped over 20 to 29, 71 to 80. Those are games where I think the spread will be double digits, 10 to 19 points, 30 to 39, 61 to 70. Those are games where I think the spread will be about a touchdown, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 points. So let's get to the projection here. One easy win, that's Campbell. I think you can count that as pretty much a guaranteed win. They'll be favored by probably 30 points in that game. Easy win there, but that's really the only guaranteed win, I would say. I think App State and Virginia are games where they'll be favored by double digits. I haven't done a ton of research on the group of 5 teams just yet, but App State probably going to be a respectable team, but I think they do lose some key players from last season. So I do think North Carolina is favored by about 13, 14 points in that game. And same thing with Virginia. That program's just, they're in rebuild mode right now, and I don't expect them to be very good. So 3 wins there that when we get to the projection here in a second, these games will all be counted as wins. All right, how about games where they'll be favored by about a touchdown? Minnesota, Syracuse, Georgia Tech. Because Minnesota and Syracuse, those games are at home, I think that gives North Carolina enough of an advantage to where they'll be favored by 6 or 7. Georgia Tech on the road, I still think North Carolina is favored by about a touchdown in that game as well. So 3 games there where they'll be tough. They'll probably be pretty close, but North Carolina will be the clear favorite. Okay, how about the other side of this game where they'll be a clear underdog? That's Clemson. They'll be about a touchdown underdog in this game. Maybe more. It's tough to say how good Clemson's going to be. The game is on the road, so there is that potential that this game should actually be in the orange. But just looking at it now, again, I try to stay conservative on these projections. And so anytime there's a question, I'm going to go with the more conservative percentage. And we'll put that one in the yellow. And then that leaves South Carolina, Pittsburgh, Miami, Duke, NC State. Really, the rest of these games are 50-50 games. These are games that could go either way. I think South Carolina is probably favored. I think Pittsburgh is probably favored because that game's at home. North Carolina is probably favored against Miami and Duke because they're at home, but not by a lot. Going back to last year, if we go by that, you could maybe put this Miami game in the purple, but Miami is still a team with a lot of talent, and if they get it together, I think that has a chance to be a good game there. And then NC State probably going to favor the Wolfpack in that one because it's on the road. So basically, I think they'll be favored in these home games, slight underdogs in the road games, but I think the numbers will be very low, less than a touchdown, and that's why we're going to call them 50-50 games. So that means 5 of the 12 games are 50-50 games. So they're going to probably have a lot of close games that could go either way. If they can find a way to win those games, they could have another really good year, kind of like they did last year. But if you lose those games, could be a very disappointing year. So 8-4 is what it comes out to be for the projection. We count the blue and the green games as wins. Then we use 65% for the purple, 35% for the game against Clemson, 50% for the rest of these games. And again, you get an 8-4 projection. Let's say they, lose to Clemson and they win the games in the purple. Maybe they lose one of those games. So they've got 1 loss there. And then you've got 5 games in the white. That would put them going 3-2 in those games. So 3-2 in the games in the white. Lose to Clemson, lose to either Minnesota, Syracuse, or Georgia Tech, just because the odds would say that when you've got 3 games like that, you're probably going to slip up and lose one of them. And, that could be how you get to 8-4. Maybe it goes a different way, but however you want to look at it, the projection for North Carolina in 2023 is that they will go 8-4.